All right, it's 8:01, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Ucross Spotlight event here in January, the 1st of 2021. I'm Bill Belcher. I'm the Director of Development and External Relations for Ucross. And just a few notes before we begin. First, you'll note that I'm recording this and it's on Facebook Live. I'll be posting it on our website tomorrow. So if you want to share it with people after, please do, or direct them to our website. Also know that I'll be letting people in from the waiting room. So if you see a little cursor floating around your screen, that's me. And then lastly, and most importantly, we'll be taking a few questions at the end of this for Daniel and Patrick here. And I'll be passing those questions to Gordon. So if you want to leave questions in the chat feature or in the comments on Facebook, I'll pick a few of them and get them included at the end of this. So that's all for a prelude here. I want to pass it over to Steve Jimenez, who is our producer of these events, a Ucross Fellow and our leader of Ucross Spotlight here. So Steve, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Bill. And welcome from all of us at Ucross to our first Spotlight of 2021. It's my great pleasure to introduce tonight's program with the Lazours, who have some truly memorable music in store for us. And this will include a conversation moderated by our special guest, Gordon Cox, contributing theater editor at Variety. Before introducing Daniel, Patrick, and Gordon, just a few words about the Ucross Spotlight series for those of you who may be joining us for the first time. So Ucross started this series of artist-centered events in early summer 2019. They were initially live, and then we went virtual when COVID hit. Everything we do at Ucross is about supporting artists and their art. So we're eagerly awaiting that moment on the near horizon when we can return to hosting live events. But in the meantime, we have an exciting series of monthly spotlights coming up this winter and spring. Please look for the schedule on our website, which is ucross.org. So without further delay, it's an honor to introduce our guest, the Lazours, whose new album, Flap My Wings, was just released this week. The album features songs from their Richard Rodgers award-winning musical, We Live in Cairo, which premiered at ART in Cambridge. This evening, you'll get to sample songs from the musical as well as their other work. So welcome Daniel and Patrick from all of us at Ucross. I'm also delighted to introduce our moderator, Gordon Cox. In addition to being a theater editor at Variety, Gordon is also the host of Variety's Stagecraft podcast. Thank you for joining us, Gordon, and I'm passing the baton to you.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As Steve mentioned, I'm going to be talking to Daniel and Patrick about not only their show We Live in Cairo, but their new album, the score of which is the basis, provides the basis for the album. And it features songs from We Live in Cairo performed not only by members of the cast, but also by some major Arab activist songwriters. And all of that was recorded around the world in lockdown remotely. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to get to know them and their work in this conversation, in which it's going to be interspersed with a few songs from Daniel and Patrick. So that's how we're going to kick things off. We're going to start with a couple songs from Flap My Wings. So Daniel and Patrick, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you could tell us a little bit about these songs and give us any context you think we need to know about the story of the musical or who's singing, and you can take it away from there.
Sure. Hey, Gordon, thank you so much for this. I'm Patrick.
I'm Daniel, his brother, his little brother.
Little brother, don't forget it. And I think you said everything that needs to be said. We just released an album called Flap My Wings: Songs from We Live in Cairo, and these are a few songs. It might be fun. I think it's actually going to be interesting for you, just because we'll be singing these songs, and maybe if you go to the album, the songs that we're singing, Movement and then Flap My Wings, right? Tahrir's Now, are interpreted by different people. So the movement on the album is interpreted by two actors in the cast, and then Flap My Wings is interpreted by us and a major activist songwriter, Rami Assam, who was in Tahrir Square during the protests. So the first song we're going to sing is a song called Movement, and it's a song sort of about forbidden love between a Muslim woman and a Coptic Christian man, which is something in Egypt that is sort of a major issue that the Muslim women and Coptic men can actually not marry. And so this song is a song sort of about that conundrum, and it's sung by two young people, the sort of lovers of the show. And the characters' names are Layla and Emir. I am playing Layla, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Playing Emir.
And it's sung at a time when hope for change is very much in the air. So you might be able to sort of pick some of that out of the lyric. What if I wanted more? What if I wanted you for longer? What if I wanted days? What if I wanted nights into days?
Sounds good. Then we'll pack a bag and we'll take a bus to Alex. And we'll sail to Greece, Mary, stay for life.
Sounds good. And when people ask us, we'll say people move. We'll move like people. I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
What if I couldn't leave? What if I said I loved my country? Would you hate me?
The day I hate you is the day I die.
Sounds good.
Then we'll find a way. We can form a big assembly where we speak our mind. Declaration sign stating you with me. This love is a movement, and the people move. We'll move our people. I'll go with that. I'll go with that. You, me, us, two. You, me, us, two.
Now, if you really want to hear the version, you should go to Spotify.
Yes, check out
Grade
Movement.
A.
Yeah, that's called Movement. So thanks so much. Yeah, we've got some more music as well. We can.
Yeah, you're going to do one more from Flap My Wings, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this one, again, as Patrick said, we're on this track actually on the album, and we're collaborating with Rami Assam, who, not to exaggerate by any means, truly inspired the character who sings this. So it was a crazy full circle sort of experience to reach out to him through a crazy series of events, and get him on board to be featured on this with us. So so check it out. It's a real, I think it's a real rousing anthem. Hopefully we'll be able to bring some of that rousing to you tonight, but especially his version is. And so this ends Act 1 in the musical. I'm a son of Tahir, born into hope, into heat, into thousands of voices. I'm a son of Tahir, out in the crowd, on the street, our pain, our pride, our choices. We've been chanting Horeya, Horeya. We'll be singing for days. Whoa, and our country's screaming, and my country is screaming. Tahrir is now, and now is here. We'll wait an hour, a day, a month, a year. We have cracked the wall of fear, and we'll see it crumble. And the air is our own, sleeping in tents in the night, in the heart of the city. And the light is our own, waiting for morning to fight against the worst of it. Imagine freedom, Horeya, Horeya. Imagine living the moment. Oh, and our country screamed, and my country is screamed. It is now, and now is here. We'll wait an hour, a day, a month, a year. We have cracked the wall of fear, and we'll see it crumble. Whoa, 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 Horeya, 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 Horeya. We are young and Tahir, young and amazed and alive, with our fists in the air. We are young and Tahir, we fight against, we survive, we live to be the square. We see it working, Horeya, Horeya. We write a story of freedom. Oh, and our country screamed, and my country is screaming. Tahrir is now, and now is here. We'll wait an hour, a day, a month, a year. We have cracked the wall of fear, and we'll see it crumble. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We have all these different versions in our head. The one on the album, and then the one we usually do. So I'm like we're both trying to communicate telepathically with each other. Like, this is the one.
Well, you'll see in the end of the album, like the sort of the coda of it is Rami Assam doing this incredible sort of chant, the Masriya Masriya Dunya, which is Egypt, the motherland, or the mother of the earth. He's doing this like, what? It's this wild sort of like, sublime coda.
Yeah, moment. Yeah, yeah.
So we just
Fireworks, vocal fireworks.
Yeah, totally.
So you can hear that.
Hey, Satoko.
It's a joke.
So thanks, gentlemen. That was wonderful. Before we talk about some of the specifics of Flap My Wings, I wonder if we could start off talking a little bit about We Live in Cairo and what specifically inspired it for you and what some of the stories you hoped to tell in it are.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think from the beginning, we always wanted it to be an ensemble piece because I think there were so many players in the revolution, the Egyptian revolution in 2011. There were the artists, there were the street artists, there were the singers like Ramya Sam, there were just the activists, the pure activists. And then there were people who were caught in between, whether it was because of culture or because of religion or family. So we really wanted to make this an ensemble piece because we really wanted to give a glimpse of these players, these major kind of heroes that inspired us in the revolution. We were inspired by this photo that was taken by a photojournalist, Ed O, during the 18 days of the revolution, so January 25th to February 11th. And it was this photo of all of these kids 7 floors above Tahrir Square uploading videos and testimonials from the protests below. And it's just this incredible, I wish we could bring it up, but it's this incredible photograph, this super dynamic, super youthful photograph of these kids. Like, I think the youngest was 16, right? 16 years old. And they were literally putting their lives on the line. Because this photo and these interviews and things that they did would put them on a list, and they would be at a super high risk of either being exiled or killed. So it was like pure, like real heroism. So we were just inspired by that, and then from there we were doing interviews with activists and Egyptians, and then we eventually went to the American University in Cairo, where we did a workshop with the students there.
So it just sort of unraveled, there were so many chapters to the development.
And how did you think about imagining or fictionalizing events or characters while at the same time sort of honoring, the true story and the things you found out in your research process?
Yeah. Such a good question. And it was always sort of it was a dilemma at first. It was a real dilemma at first, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was a dilemma at first because, I mean, you write a first draft and you're like the proudest person in the world and you don't want to change anything. But we quickly realized that wasn't going to be the way that this thing goes. It wasn't like a first draft and then tinker, and then put on stage, which can work and should probably work more in the American theater. There's so much development. But for this one, I think, we would write something and then we would give it to Egyptian friends of ours and be like, does this ring true? We're not Egyptian, we didn't grow up in the Middle East. And we had to imagine into these characters, and sometimes we got it wrong, and sometimes we got it really wrong, and sometimes we got it more right than we thought we did, or thought we could. It was a process of filtering out things that a number of people who really knew this subject intimately and personally, and who were in the square, told us, needed to be changed.
Yeah, and I also would say, I think it became very clear to us how we were going to work on the show. I don't think it could have been a show without like intense collaboration and a sort of script being like only the guidelines for like the very sort of thin guidelines for what this like conversation had to be. So I think we realized really quickly, we're like, okay, wow, this is going to be a major project, and do we want to do this? Do we want to do this? And we decide.
Do we want to do it the right way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That we thought was the right way.
Might not be.
And we just heard a couple of songs from the musical, but how would you characterize the music and the traditions you're drawing on, and how that fits into kind of a musical theater kind of story and framework and all the tradition that goes along with musical theater?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a really interesting question, especially the musical theater element of it. But in terms of the threads that sort of make up the tapestry of the thing, we are Arab, we're Lebanese, so some of those rhythms we grew up with, and really initially when we're like, should we make this into a musical, and why, we were like, well, those rhythms, those Arabic rhythms, that percussion, I mean, that which you'll hear on the album, I mean, which I'm really happy with how the percussion turned out, and you'll be able to hear some of these really, really beautiful and driving and theatrical rhythms, and I think that was definitely a way into the album.
Yeah.
And then we started really getting into protest music from all over the world, from obviously this country, from South America to, I started learning the guitar because I fell in love with Silvio Rodriguez, and who was a major singer, songwriter, protest singer in Cuba. And it was I don't know, it was trying to get at the heart of what protest music is, because we knew from the outset that we can't try to write Kulthum songs, ballad, we can't write classical Arabic music, but we can take what we love of Arabic music, take what we know, and marry it with something so heart forward as the guitar, and make a protest score, protest song score. Yeah, celebration. Yeah. But in terms of the musical theater element, I don't know if you want to talk about that, figuring out how to.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, yeah, the musical theater thing.
Because what's interesting is you see on the album, a lot of the songs stand alone. And we actually weeded out for the album songs that were a little bit more plotty, because we wanted them to have this universal protest spirit. So, what we released, the album we released is not a musical theater cast album per se, because it has these sort of standalone numbers. But there are certain songs on that album that don't appear because of their more book musical component. Yeah.
Right. We did. I think we did try to, we did challenge ourselves to find ways of making or situating these songs, these sort of, I wouldn't call them too standalone, but they are rather standalone. But situate them in certain places where they were the most sort of well received, or most received by an audience, be dramaturgically,
situate them in the story.
Situate them in the story.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we've mentioned a couple of times that the show premiered in 2019 at the American Repertory Theater, and we've got some images of that. Bill or Steve, if you want to show some of that. But I wonder if you two could tell us a little bit about that experience and what you learned about the show, and then what were the plans for the show that the pandemic affected in the way that it affected so many plans.
Right. Well, affected is such a good word, because there were positives, and there were negatives, of course, but there were positives, which is weird to say.
Silver linings.
Yeah. But yeah, so the production, this cast was unreal, and the director Taby Magar did this beautiful. If you see that one of those with the that sort of tent over the, she created this tent over the audience, on which we projected images from the square, which was really a wonderful moment at the end of Act One, I think, because you were enveloped by the thing. You were there. You were in the square. You saw the things. You heard the sound of the protests, which I think really, really helped Westerners sort of either remember or, you know, get introduced to this moment in time.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you also notice, another just element of the set is these blocks, these blocks in the like toward the upstage, and those are actually sort of an homage to these barricades that would be put up by the government to prevent
The flow of people into the square.
Yeah.
And there's this really amazing, I mean, not to get too deep with all this, but there's this really amazing image somewhere online of these street artists, which, you know, there's a character in the show who, the one right there to the right of the hookah pipe, who was a street artist, and street artists were huge, and the walls of Cairo were covered in 2011.
Yeah, and you even see the graffiti on the wall there.
Mhm.
But I think what you're referring to is the street art on one of these.
Right, I'm sorry. Yeah,
On one of these walls, there was actually someone who created a mural of like the street continued. So
you looked at it and you thought that you could walk through, you know, it was sort of a, you know,
illusion.
Yeah, no, right, an optical illusion.
But it's all to say that this revolution was an explosion of creativity.
Yeah, right.
You know, there was photography, street art, music, all of these things came to be.
I mean, and of course, and political creativity too.
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
I mean, thinking about, you know, this was a 30-year-long dictatorship that young people had to imagine a new way to see their country, and you know, and that's something that, you know, we've never had. After 4 years of Trump, we're like, can we go back, you know, to how we thought? So I don't know. So it's just something to think. It's interesting to think about the longevity of what they were coming after, you know. So yeah.
And sorry, no, and I was just curious, tell us, in the wake of the experience of watching this production and then having the pandemic happen, and then at the same time, of course, there's this sort of national reckoning going on with justice and equity and abuse of power and all those things. How did the events of the last year make you think differently about the songs you wrote for We Live in Cairo, and what prompted Flap My Wings?
Well, Flap My Wings is a song that is very important to us. It actually came about during the development of the production, because our director Taby said, you know, I think this show really needs, for the characters, it needs like their raison d'etre, or the reason why they become, you know, they really become activists in this circumstance. And so we went away and you know, Taby wrote this like amazing sort of free flow email about the media and the state, and then Khaled Said, who was really historically the kind of spark for the Egyptian Revolution, and this 26-year-old student was beaten to death at a cyber cafe by police in Alexandria. And this was really the moment that all of the youth of Egypt said, wow, I see myself in this person, and I'm gonna fight for him. So this was all these conversations were happening, and we finally sat down. It was a really, really hard, Flap My Wings was a really, really hard song to write. And you're talking about the album.
I am talking about the album. It is, but there's clearly a reason clearly a reason that you chose Flap My Wings as the name of that album, right?
But yeah, but I mean, and I think like in reality, like it's all of a piece, because all of this really parallels a lot of elements of, so you know, the movements that are happening in our country now. And I think the reason why we created this album too is to, you know, to bring I don't know, to speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think about one song on the album that's actually wordless. It's called Each and Every Name. It's interpreted by Nassim Al-Atrash, the cellist, and he was a cellist in the pit orchestra actually, and he's just so amazing. He's Palestinian, just this incredible artist, the kindest soul. And we called on, we sort of tapped him and said, like, do you think you could take this song? Speaking of songs that were too book heavy, too like character, you know, specific things, yeah. And he said, yeah, I can take it and make a cello piece with it, because the lyrics just were too specific. But the lyrics speak about martyrdom, and it made us start thinking about, you know, martyr is not really a word in our culture as much, but you think about the martyrs, you think about people who died to make revolution possible. And, you know, that was something that was foundational for the Egyptian revolution. And also you think about movements in this country and around the world, you know, these people who become symbols of hope, of change, you know, to carry with you, to carry their spirit with you. And so he did this incredible interpretation that I really hope you listen to, called Each and Every Name. Yeah.
And how did you think about the international artists that you worked with on this? What was important to you about their participation? Not only musicians, but there's also an artist, visual artist and animator who you worked with as well.
Yes. Well, I think it was the number one thing for us was that these artists had their artistic voice made clear. Like, I think for every one of the songs that we felt, for example, I'll just give an example of the first song called Genealogy of Revolution. And it's a song sung by Hamid Sino, of this band, of this Lebanese rock band, Mashru Leila. And we sent him an email and we were like, you know, we're really, really big fans and we would love for you to interpret this song. And he's like, oh, absolutely. And so, you know, we really talked about it and we're like, you know what, this needs to just be in his hands. Like, he needs to be the artistic interpreter of this thing, and he needs to arrange this. And so this happened with every artist that we asked, and we really like entrusted these creators to do something with these songs, wholly new. And I think everyone just kind of took it and ran with it,
which was hard, which we had never done. I mean, even knowing the depth of talent that everyone involved had, you know, we've never like sort of, because we're in theater, like you can sit in rehearsal and you can tinker and you can give notes and all of this. So we've never sort of just like, here you go. And we'll just be happy with whatever you come back with. And not only were we happy, we were, you know, just floored. So.
Yeah. Blown away.
Yeah, so that's Flap My Wings, which came out this week. It's on iTunes and Spotify, and I imagine all the other places you can find music.
Sure.
We're going to talk a little more about some of the other music you make together. But before we dive in, you're going to play a couple of songs for us. So, Patrick, what are you going to play for us?
Well, I think we're going to start. Shall we start with Habitable Planet?
Yeah, let's do it.
This was a song. Marty Renee, I see you there. Hey. This is a song. This is a song that we wrote probably in 2014. And it was actually featured on a video, a Ucross video a few months ago. And it's sort of a standalone song that's on our album Frères, which was our sort of first, I guess you would call it like an EP-esque thing. So we'll talk more about it.
Nice call. You stopped loving me. You said our love ran out. I think your love ran out. You stopped loving me. The sun is getting hot. You said so we cannot. What does it matter, you said? The sky is getting thin, but I have news. I Doesn't that change things? I pointed up to the brightest star. I said, could we stop the car? You've had enough of what I call the stars. You see, that's nothing but night and old light. And we kept driving. Nothing lasts, you say. My love, I'll live that way. If you'll admit that we just found a habitable planet, doesn't that change things?
Earth has a way of moving.
Earth has a way of moving.
Like an elephant in a show.
Like an elephant in a show.
You wanna go?
No.
So okay.
I have a plan. Paper white and clean. Let's draw the machine. Let's plan it. Let's plan it. Let's plan it. We just found a habitable planet. Doesn't that change things?
Doesn't that change things?
Thanks all.
Thank you. And do you want to do one more before we talk about?
Yeah, let's do
a little
another
more?
one.
Yeah.
So this is a standalone that we play. I remember fondly playing this after dinner one night, after an incredible dinner cooked by Cindy. It was honestly, I mean, I hope this next, when we perform it right now, it will top it. But that night, it just something about the chemistry of the food, the acoustics of the room. It was like the perfect performance, and of course, and the audience of, you know, artists. Yes.
Do we see here Satoko Madrone?
You know, artists who have become such dear friends, and I think, you know, I think we were probably playing it, and we knew that in our heart. So,
Wow, Vanessa, hey.
so we'll try to capture that again.
Yes,
Yes.
we have the love, not the food love. Grow in the way that the tall grass grows, and I know in the way that the farmer knows. Fall is here, and harvest coming. I dance in the way that the willow dances in the wind, unafraid I will take my chances, but oh, front rolls in and rain is coming. I have a lot to say, but I'll wait till the storm rolls by. I'll wait till the storm rolls by. Oh, I live in the period between storms. And in the period between storms is where I hope to die. I fly in the way that the robin flies to a plump little worm that has caught my eye. Make it last. Who knows about tomorrow? Mourn in the way that the owl mourns in the night I don't hear when the howl warns. so I'll stay. I could be wiser. I have a lot to say, but I'll wait till the storm rolls by. I'll wait till the storm rolls by. Oh, I live in the period between storms, and in the period between storms is where I hope to die. I fall in the way that an old oak falls, but I know that the fall isn't nearly all. Chop it up, a cord of wood, says the feller. I love in the way that the pine cone loves, so I know why the gardener wears his gloves. But I hope the tree I plant becomes a forest. I have a lot to say, but I'll wait till the storm rolls by. I'll wait till the storm rolls by. Oh, I live in the period between storms, and in the period between storms is where I hope to die.
Thank you.
everybody.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your process. Break down some of the specifics. What comes first, a song or a lyric or an idea? And is there a division of labor in terms of who writes music and who writes lyrics? Tell us a little bit about some of the specifics of how you work.
Yeah, sure. Well,
It's changing all the time,
Yeah.
but I think we're definitely trying to like forge a path that is more fluid than it has been in the past, which you know, we started out where like Patrick would like write the lyrics and then I would set the lyrics, you know.
Right.
And I think now it's much more sort of it's much more fluid. I think like there's a sense of we can share everything and we're not going to get precious about anything. Usually what will happen is one of us will come up with an idea of some sort, like a little bit of something, and you'll come up with a little scrawl of a lyric of something of some sort, or
Sometimes
a melody,
like a free write, or like a like sometimes what will happen is Daniel will come up with like a hook of some kind and be like, oh, I think this is a really interesting hook.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go away maybe and write a bunch of stuff and maybe highlight some things that I think are really interesting and maybe give a melody here or there. And then we'll usually like come together on one day and like bang the song out in a
just
day.
clump it all sort of together.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, there's a great song in Curtains, the musical, the Kander and Ebb show. I Miss the Music. Do you know that song, Gordon?
I do. Yeah.
Which I honestly think is a great, I mean, there were songwriters writing about songwriting, but it's a great explanation of at least how I think we work. Like I'll write a line, you play a vamp, and then it just sort of, you hang everything off, everything else. Yeah.
And of course, you are brothers. What does that uniquely afford you as artists and collaborators?
We could scream at each other without
My next
guilt.
question was actually going to be, what's uniquely aggravating about working with your brother?
No. But I think actually what's really nice is that we have a relationship that has a really long history. Like, you know, we've known each other since I was 3 and Daniel was, I was 0, but born. But I think because of that, we just know the ways of communicating, and I think we're uniquely privileged in this collaboration because we didn't need to get to know each other really in the beginning. We didn't have to forge that relationship because we already had it. And that I think is a big benefit to our collaboration.
I mean, and I used to say, I like, sometimes like if someone asks that question, I feel like I used to say, you can, like you were just saying as a joke, you can scream at each other, you can be as rude as you want.
Yeah.
But I think as the years have passed, we've realized that like you actually can't be as rude as you want, even, or you can, but it doesn't make for better work, know? And actually, we can't show it right now, but we made at Ucross,
I'll show you.
yeah, pull it up. We made this incredible little constitution of sorts. Or would you call it a constitution? Or
I would call it.
I mean, it's just a list of guidelines on how to collaborate and how not to lose our minds. Because, I mean, we were working on a really tricky and intense show at Ucross about cancer treatment, and we were getting really in each other's face. And so we finally said, and it was a real come to Jesus moment at Ucross, where we sat down and we're like, we need to do something about this. I mean, we need to not do something. I mean, it didn't get to a problem, but before it becomes this issue, we should try to come up with ways we can, deal with major issues that just have been coming up year after year.
Yeah.
So maybe you can read some of the things.
So one of the reminders is this is your job. Watch your tone. The things that get us, our biggest dispiriters, or whatever you want to call it, is Daniel gets really defeated and I get really bruised. Like my ego gets bruised and Daniel gets really sort of nihilistic and defeated. So we just like put these all down, and sometimes we look at them and
we came up with just some antidotes for some of these problems.
This is like still feeling down. You're still feeling like you don't want to work.
Suit up, take a shower, get dressed, and get to work. Feel like it's like a work day. I really love taking a break and eating a little something. Like, let's eat. Let's get the chemistry. Like, let's get the biology right. Then we go back.
We need to do like a Vatican II on this though, because I think there are a couple things that don't work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You mentioned, that leads me into my next question. You mentioned the project you were working on at Ucross. So tell us about it, and tell us about that show and what the kind of work you did at Ucross on it and what's next for it.
Yeah. Well, we're writing a show about cancer and its and the patient caretaker relationship. And we really came to a realization probably a couple weeks ago, that we really want to make this a community-driven piece. And so we're writing right now. Actually, we wrote a few songs at Ucross that are going to be in this compendium, but we're hoping to write about a collection of about 50 or so songs that deal with sort of patient caretaker, the medical community,
end of life
care, all of these things. And we're hopefully going to, create kind of a little booklet of these things and
these songs.
These songs and create an event where medical professionals, patients, nurses, caretakers can come together and talk about their experience with an audience when we can come back together, and we can sing these songs interspersed throughout the evening. You could think of it a little bit as like a mass, speaking of Vatican II, as a mass, but a sort of ritual, secular, ritual for the terrestrial and, the kingdom of the ill sort of thing.
Let's take a trip there and not be afraid of it.
Yeah. And they're all I should say this. This is the big thing. They're all sing-along songs. They're all like songs that the audience is supposed to sing along to. So, yeah.
What inspired that subject as something you wanted to tackle?
We read Emperor of All Maladies, that like huge tome called the biography of cancer, as Mukherjee, the author, calls it. And I mean, it's such an incredible topic. And, I think we were realizing that people weren't, we just, I think as, as a culture, we just have naturally, I mean, it's natural. Maybe it's not as a culture, maybe it's just a natural thing. We have such a skittishness around these questions and these issues. And I think there is a real desire to be in communion with each other and like grapple with it, even if you don't come to any answers, and sort of sit around and feel something together and remind ourselves that we're alive and we can be scared, but we can be scared together. And I think especially as communal singing will be really, really cathartic after, this entire year being so isolated from one another. So,
and also after hearing these guests, we're hoping, it's actually a commission with the American Repertory Theater in Boston, and which was where the Cairo was. And they have a lot of resources in terms of the medical community, the healthcare, et cetera. So we're looking to really engage with that and try to bring some worlds together.
Yeah, performance art, and then the medical community in Boston.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to being able to hear that as soon as we're all able to be in the same room together. We're running out of time. This went surprisingly quickly. Thank you, guys. But we have got a couple of questions from the audience that I wanted to ask you. One of which is: are there specific collaborations or projects that were generated out of your time at Ucross and some of the people you met there?
Yes, there absolutely were. We have two incredible friends and artists here with us, Satoko and Marty Renee, and we did a beautiful collaboration that we want to continue. Marty Renee is an incredible photographer and filmmaker, and she was filming and capturing Patrick and me improvising and or playing some songs, some original music, while Satoko was doing this gorgeous ink painting.
Free paints.
Free paint, free paint, music making. It's true like improvisations, and it's amazing like the way we fed off of each other in those moments, and you can see like just some like splashes and things that go along with certain musical impulses, and it was really beautiful, and that was totally organic and totally wouldn't have happened had we not all happened to be together.
It was amazing. So and then we were working on this cancer show while we were there. That was our main project. So
right. Yeah, and you've talked a little bit already about the Constitution that you showed us, but were there other ways in which the Ucross experience or the residency experience in general informed the way you work and your creative process?
Well, we are deeply grateful to have been given separate spaces, which is not truly, I mean, like, it would have been even worse we would have truly murdered each other in that moment if we were living in the same
murder
space.
in Wyoming.
So yeah, I mean, I think learning about that, learning about what we can accomplish on our own, I think actually was a huge thing.
Definitely.
There.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just the environment. It was unlike anywhere I've ever been. I just to be able to experience the openness. We're Northeastern. We live in the Northeast, so to experience that openness, I mean, you can't underestimate how inspiring that is. And, those bikes,
endless possibilities. Yeah.
Really, really. So it was just beautiful.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, what you've got this album fresh out now. What should we look for next from you?
Hopefully check out the show. Check out this cancer show, which we need to title better than like this cancer show. But we also, in the summer, we're gonna release a couple. We're gonna release just a couple singles. So if you follow us on any of these platforms, we'll release some really cool.
That's my next question. How do they tell us where the people can follow you?
Yes. So I guess we can put this right in the chat here.
Yeah, absolutely.
To everyone. Yeah. And so our handle is Frère Lazour, And you can follow that on Instagram. And then we're our for lack of a better term, band name is or our artist name is the Lazours. And so you could find that on any streaming platform and really check out. And I also want to say, this is a really specific thing, but there's an incredible animation to accompany the song Flap My Wings from the album.
Yes.
And please check that out on YouTube. Ganzir, this incredible street artist, Egyptian street artist who we worked with for the production and then for the album, he did all the album art. He came up with this incredible animation with Paul McLaughlin. Yes, thank you. So check that out. It's really moving, and I think it really illustrates
what I was actually saying. What that sort of gaffe I had, but that is sort of like the reason for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you both. Thanks for talking. It was great to talk to you. Thank you for your performances. They're wonderful.
Thank you so much, Gordon.
Yeah. And I'm going to hand it back to Bill and Steve.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you for the wonderful music and conversation. Always lovely and always great. So thanks. I also just want to take a moment before I pass it to Steve to thank all of our sponsors. And, sponsors really make this happen for the whole Ucross series and all of our donors to Ucross, of course. A big thanks, especially during this time, 2020 to 2021. It really makes all of this happen. And all of their money really goes to this artist support, both these artist-centric events like Spotlight and everything we do with the residency program. So thank you. Steve is going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to unmute Steve here, and he'll talk a little bit about what's next for Ucross Spotlight and wrap up. All right, Steve.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to thank you guys, Daniel, Patrick. Thank you for the beautiful music.
Thank you, Steve.
I just want to say, that last song you did about period between storms, I was just thinking how beautifully healing your music is. So thank you for that. And Gordon, thank you for hosting for us tonight and moderating. We really appreciate that. So I just want to say to please mark your calendar for the next Ucross Spotlight, which is Thursday, February 18th, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain. And that program will feature acclaimed writer and Ucross alum Natalie Goldberg. Her new book is called 3 Simple Lines, A Writer's Pilgrimage into the Heart and Homeland of Haiku. That was released earlier this month, and Natalie will be joined in conversation with a wonderful visual artist, Susan York. So please continue to support Spotlight, and we just thank everyone again for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, guys.